Douglas, we're going to be talking a bit about your column this week, but that kind of follows on from your column last week. So can you tell us a bit about that for anyone who dared to miss it?
Of course, if anyone missed it. I wrote last week about the events that have been going on in Leicester in recent weeks, really since the end of last month, when there's been community tensions between the Hindu community and the Muslim community. As a result, really it started, it seems, because of a cricket match at the end of August. And things got really nasty there. And I talked, among other things, about the fact that here were two groups of, young men. A lot of them seemed to be, or at least some of them seemed to be carrying some form of arms, and things were getting very ropey. And the local police were there as a thin yellow line. I mentioned in passing that there were several women there with sticks, and it didn't seem to me entirely adequate necessarily for two very, very, gung-ho groups of young men. And I mentioned in passing that, of course, I don't know if there was much trans representation, or indeed whether there were any gays at the event, because they weren't, whether or not they were dancing the Macarena, which is what we now expect, of course, of LGBTQI plus officers, as we know. So I mentioned that in passing as a real dig just at the fact that for years the British police have put diversity, they advertise diversity as the main thing. They don't really bother if you get your bike stolen. They don't really bother if you get your house robbed. They don't even look at CCTV, but they love to paint their cars rainbow. They love to have photographed high heels and much more. And so I think that one of my basic rules is that if you make yourself ridiculous, you should expect to be ridiculed. You shouldn't make yourself ridiculous, and then when somebody ridicules you, you say, how dare you? What would make you do that?
So you're writing about a serious issue here. Sectarian violence breaking out in the streets of the Midlands, people getting hurt, there's widespread violence. You get a response to your piece from the police.
Yes.
What does that say? And that's what you're writing about this week.
That's right. Well, it was, literally, the comment I just made was that there was a throwaway comment. It was humorous, if I may say so myself. And the police turned out to be enraged by it. I read, actually, since I got it in front of me, what the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police wrote. He wrote a letter to our editor.
I see. You've dobbed in.
To my boss. He dobbed me in. And he said, among other things, he said, if Mr. Murray were to rise from his comfortable chair and toddle up to the West Midlands, he would find plenty of women and LGBT officers more than capable of putting him on his backside if he came at them waving his sharp fountain pen. Now that's Sir David Thompson, who's the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police. He went on to say that his men, women and theys, I assume, know very well how to deal with the thugs they confront keeping the king's peace. So it's interesting he called the Muslim gangs thugs. Yeah. But anyway, and then others joined in. Louisa Rolfe, an Assistant Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police here in London, added that she said to me, we have room in a carrier for you. So a chief constable promised that his officers could put me onto my backside, i.e. beat me up, and then his colleague at the Metropolitan Police promised that they've got a police van for me. This is for making a dig at the stupidity of the British police's behaviour in recent years on these issues. And I think it is so telling for a number of reasons. One is it's a great reminder of the fact that the British police have gone mad, and this is 12 years into a Conservative government, and there's no excuse for it. People at the top of the police, like the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, Sir David Thompson, not only get knighted, but they get wafted all the way up by doing this sort of thing. They're all political actors, these. They're not really interested in policing. They're interested in saying the right things to get themselves advanced in the police force. So that's the first thing. The second thing is West Midlands Police has a shocking reputation as its own. It's well-known a problem police force, and I'm glad Sir David Thompson has reminded us all of that. About 12 years ago, when Channel 4 revealed that there were preachers in the West Midlands area preaching jihad, and they did this. Channel 4 showed this in a documentary. Who did the West Midlands Police and Sir David Thompson's colleagues go for? They didn't go for the preachers, they didn't go for the jihadis, they didn't go for the people who were threatening the lives of other British citizens. No, they decided to go for Channel 4. So this is actually just another example of the fact the British police is in deep disarray. I think people like Sir David Thompson and Louisa Rolfe, should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. I don't consider this a threat. I'm a big enough boy to be able to take it. But I don't really expect chief constables and assistant commissioners of Metropolitan Police to be threatening journalists.
I mean, you mentioned in your piece about the fact that, the police have been doing the Macarena, they've been going to Pride festivals. They've taken the knee in London.
Yeah.
There seems to be sort of a clear political agenda of the police. Do you think it's kind of linked almost? It's almost about being seen as righteous online, and that's why they're sort of coming for you.
Well, of course. I mean, it's been like this ever since the Macpherson report. They've just overcompensated on everything. And we see this on a daily basis. I mean, the way they behave about Pride now is absolutely sickening. But as I say in the piece, it makes me start to feel really quite homophobic, I have to say. I mean, seriously, getting your male officers to wear high heels and go sort of, ooh, as if I'm a woman, maybe I'm a they, maybe I'm a non-binary. It's like, no, stop people's houses getting burgled. Like, lock up rapists and murderers. And they've got really terrible rates for this. If you look at some of these police forces, like the West Midlands Police, if you look at their actual rates of catching people for what they regard as minor crimes, it's absolutely appalling. They don't bother chasing up this stuff. Oh, but they love doing the Macarena at Manchester Pride to show how on board with the gays they are. I don't give a damn about that stuff. I'd be very surprised if most British citizens give a damn about that stuff. What we do give a damn about is our police officers becoming political in an incredibly ugly left-wing agenda direction.
And I said we'd mention as well, there's been another incident with the police this week where Sussex police, a paedophile had been convicted essentially for abusing a large number of people. They now identify as a woman, and
he identifies as a woman.
He identifies as a woman, quite.
And he raped the kids when he was a man.
When he was a man, and throughout the court case, he's referred to as a man actually because that's when his actions took place like that. And someone had the temerity to sort of describe this person as a man, and they were ticked off online by Sussex police. I mean, what do you make of that? Where do you think this is coming from?
It's an even more obscene example of what I just described, where you do the Macarena but you don't bother with burglaries. To police pronouns and put the priority of a sex offender, paedophile rapist's pronoun preferences over an accurate description of the crime, and for the police to think that's their role, is so sickening. Like, what does it matter whether you misgender the person? You're not misgendering anyway. All that's happened on this occasion is a male paedophile rapist has been convicted and has since tried to dress up and approximate the look of a woman. That's it. West Midlands Police or any other police force, Sussex Police, they can have all sorts of views about what pronouns. Doesn't matter a damn. The only thing that matters is that man is convicted if he's guilty and he's sentenced to prison and he spends the rest of his life in prison. That would be a good outcome. Why are Sussex Police policing pronouns? For the same reason that the police in this country that still tries to be serious on occasion, that this formerly serious country has police officers turning up at people's doors telling them that their thoughts are wrong, or that they've tweeted something online that could cause somebody else distress. We've got a new Home Secretary, Suella Braverman. She, thank goodness, responded actually very swiftly to the latest stupidity from Sussex Police. Here's a challenge to Suella Braverman if she's watching. You may well be the last Conservative Home Secretary for some decades at the rate at which the Conservatives have been failing over the last 12 years. You may be the last Home Secretary from the Conservative Party for a very long time. So, one way to avoid that fate would be to get on top of this crap and get on top of it fast. Get people like Sir David Thompson out of the force, fire Assistant Commissioner Louisa Rolfe, tell them that it's not their job to police what journalists say, tell them that it's not their job to tell people what pronouns they should or should not use, fire people who can't catch criminals, basic crime, can't police it, can't do any of that job, get rid of them. There's a job.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Douglas.